So this is a neat little question where we are going to take a list and we're going to rotate the values in them or shift the values to the right by a number specified by the user. Okay. So what I mean by that is, let's say you had here are the numbers in your list. If you were to shift by 1, then the 12 would be popped out of the list here and put to the front, and then all the other numbers would be shifted to the right by 1. So the 11 would be at the end and the 12 would be at the start. If you shifted by 2, then the first 2 numbers here would be popped to the front, and 1 through 10 would be pushed over to the end there. Okay. So we're getting the user to enter the information all on one line, and we're going to then put those into a list, and then we're going to shift the list by the correct value. And I think the good strategy to use here is if we can shift just one number over, and then I just loop that the correct number of times, okay, then that would accomplish the task pretty easily here. So let's go to our IDE and see if we can figure that out. So my input for this program is all on one line. So we're going to need to read it in as a string, and then we're going to just need to split it. Now they're all separated by spaces, so it's pretty straightforward to just split that string. So enter the list. All right. So then our values of our list that we want to rotate are just c.split will work, and it should separate it fine. So we can test that. So we'll print values. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's my values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now there's still characters or strings in the list, but it doesn't matter in this case because I'm not doing any like calculations with them. So I don't need to convert those into into numbers. They're fine as it is for this particular problem. Okay, so now I have a list of all the numbers that I've entered all on one line from the keyboard. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to just using the delete and the insert commands. So I want to basically delete the last value and store the last value in a variable, then delete the last value, and then insert that value that I stored back into the front of the list. And then I'm just going to loop that the correct number of times. So I'm just going to use a temporary variable called length just to avoid having to write the length of the values all the time. Okay, so let's get the shift to here from the keyboard. So let's to put the int. Okay. Sorry, I like my inputs at the top here. Maybe we'll just do it like this. Okay. Because I'm just going to need this variable a couple times, so I just don't want to keep writing the length. So I need a loop to loop the correct amount of times for my shift. Okay. And then I'm going to just write the code that shifts things by 1. So I'm going to store the last value of the variable. So values at length -1 because the index starts at 0. And then I'm going to delete the last value. Okay. And then I'm just going to insert that last number that I took out. Okay. That's why I need to store it in a variable. I need to store it in a variable before I delete it. Otherwise, I can't grab it. I'd end up grabbing the second to last number all the time. All right. So this piece of code here will take the last number out and put it at the start. Okay. So effectively shifting it by 1, and then I just loop that to shift it over as many times as the user enters. Okay. And I can just print out the value of the list afterwards. Okay, so we should be able to test it with like, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I shift it by 1, okay, so see the number 5 has gone into the starting position and everything else was shifted over to the right. Okay. And if I shift it by 2, okay, so now so it did it once, and then I've got a new list basically that it's starting with, and then it's grabbing the next value and printing it out. Okay. You could watch it print, I guess, if you printed the values inside the loop. Okay. So if I shift by 3, okay, so see how it is. There's after the first shift, after the second shift, after the third shift, it's completed.